An icy monitor glow filled a secure operations center deep inside the Department of Homeland Security building. A lone analyst stared at rows of intelligence reports, encrypted tabs, classified headers, red-lined flags. Then the alert popped. Access granted. All users. No handshake. No verification. Thousands of eyes now slid silently over frank assessments of cyber attacks, protest movements, and domestic tips. The system meant to protect the nation had betrayed itself. The platform in question was the HSIN Intel Hub, the intelligence branch of DHS's sharing network. Between March and May 2023, it was misconfigured so that instead of restricting access to vetted agents, it allowed nearly all users to log in. Security Magazine +3 Wired, +3 Security Magazine +3. The breach wasn't dramatic in the sense of missiles falling overnight, but in agency's terms, it let a flood of sensitive data trickle into spaces it should never have been. In hushed corridors, a junior operator discovered logs. 439 intelligence products had been accessed improperly, 1,525 times. Among those users were disaster response staff, private contractor seats, even foreign nationals with HSIN credentials. Wired One report detailed protest-related analysis, noting media praise for stone-throwing, Molotov cocktails, the kind of domestic unrest incubating in the shadows of post-9/11 policy. Wired over time, the atmosphere inside the intelligence and analysis unit changed. No longer just about threats abroad, the focus slid inward. Agents whispered of domestic protest intelligence, of monitoring journalists. The public learned that in 2020, DHS had created intelligence reports on American journalists simply posting tweets about leaked internal documents. The Washington Post +1. The line between external enemy and citizen subject blurred. One evening in a dim conference room, two analysts spoke quietly. "They're filtering us through civil rights lens now," the veteran said, tapping his pen on the table. "But we still have zero oversight on how many millions of identities slide through the system." The junior in the corner swallowed. They both knew. Mistakes here weren't just data loss. They were about trust. The HSIN Intel misconfiguration was first flagged internally by an auditor whose role it was to verify user privileges. When the auditor drilled down, they found user groups incorrectly inherited, essentially everyone, instead of clearance only. The code change was meant to be minimal, but the effect was maximal. Up went access, out went control. As soon as the coding error was discovered, INA immediately fixed the problem and investigated any potential harm, a DHS spokesperson later told reporters. Wired but internal memos told a different story. The Office of Privacy had assessed the impact as minimal to low, yet a separate review pointed out that personally identifiable information, PII, of Americans had not been thoroughly evaluated. Wired +1. The gap between claim and fact widened. In state and local fusion centers across America, smartphones buzzed. An officer in Georgia opened a data feed originally meant for counter-terrorism analysts and found files on protest movements, foreign disinformation campaigns, and law enforcement leads, all flagged for domestic unrest. The officer frowned. "Why are we seeing this?" she thought. But no one asked. The feed kept flowing. Meanwhile, contractors working for the private sector found postings on HSIN Intel labeled Cyber Threat A123, Foreign State Actor, that detailed hacker groups, malware campaigns tied to nation-states, and the vulnerabilities of U.S. government systems. 518 of the improper accesses came from private sector users. Wired +1. Among them, 46 were foreign nationals. The walls of compartmentalization cracked. Late at night, deep inside the building, a supervisor reviewed the incident log. The red flag list sat on the screen, but one line froze his breath. Impact assessment incomplete. PII of U.S. persons unaccounted for. He closed the file, sat back, and realized how wide the pool of exposure had become. The data wasn't lost, but it was out there. The myth of perfect defense began to unravel. Back in Washington, lawmakers watched. Reform bills were drafted. The Strengthening Oversight of DHS Intelligence Act, and amendments to the Intelligence Authorization Act of 2026. Wired +1. But the bills included exceptions specifically preserving sharing with contractors and other agencies. The loopholes remained. On the ground, the impact was subtle but real. A local police chief in Pennsylvania found a memo on his desk about foreign state-sponsored disinformation, citing a vague university protest. He questioned the source. No one told him it had come from HSN intel. The trust he had in federal intelligence filters eroded. Criminals working in the dark night world surfed the margins too. The hacker forums and phishing sites feasted on contact lists leaked elsewhere. Over 9,000 DHS employees' names, job titles, and emails were dumped online in a separate hack. Proof that even security agencies were brittle. Bitdefender. That directory breach offered a map for exploitation. Combine that with intelligence melted into the open and the picture turns grim. In a secure hearing room, a whistleblower whispered to a congressional staffer. "They collect it all. They share it with everyone. Then they tell us it's safe." The staffer scribbled furiously. Senators leaned forward. "How many of our own names are in those data flows?" one asked. The answer, no one knows, because governance in this space remains opaque. The misconfiguration was repaired. Internal review boards claimed no serious breach. Wired +1, but the damage was already done. Once trust erodes, control slips. Analysts began to ask, if a system designed for intelligence sharing can be so easily unlocked, what about one built for surveillance, or collection of foreign nationals, or Americans caught in the crosshairs? The ambience in the building changed too. Windows shuttered. Conversations moved to secure rooms. Analysts stared at screens with a new wariness. The hum of servers and the blinking of network lights took on a darker beat. The data center had become part guardian, part gulch. Ubuntu lighting was replaced with cold LEDs. The coffee machine in the break room ran dutifully but tasted bitter. In a final push, a small team mapped each unauthorized access. They found patterns: disaster response workers viewing cyber threat products, foreign contractors inspecting protest intelligence, non-intelligence task force users with full dashboards. They closed those accounts. But their deeper concern: the architecture still allowed broad inheritance. One more slip, and the dominoes fall. The public barely heard of it. The leak didn't explode across headlines for months. No chaotic Black Ops film, no dramatic resignations. Just quiet fixes, memos, a handful of internal calls. But in privacy watchdog circles, one quote cut deep. "This should raise alarm bells for all Americans." Wired. "What keeps us safe," they said, "are the walls between collection, analysis, dissemination. When those walls crumble, the watchers become visible. The watchers leak. The watchers betray the watched." Late one evening in that formerly secure center, the lights dimmed. A single server fan spun. The log file names flickered on the monitor. Unauthorized access, HSN, go to 1423. Privdata, leak, 5/04/23. Review, impact, notes, read. An analyst hovered over the one last line, typed, "Summary, loss of control." He hit enter. The screen froze. The hum grew louder. And somewhere in America, the people whose data passed through those systems went about dinner, watched TV, slept. None knew their names, cases, identities, or vulnerabilities had slipped into a system billed as Fortress. Because in the end, it wasn't warships or bombs that revealed the risk. It was trust, quietly broken.